Hi, Heather.
Hi, Krista.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are your trees these days?
My trees are good. Yeah, I'm loving my trees. I'm having to move a little further away from where the my favorite trees are, but I
Yeah,
have to trust that I'm going to find new trees close to my new place of belonging.
I'm sure you will. I'm
I
sure you will. They
will.
seem to find you, so I'm
They
not too
do.
concerned.
Everywhere I go. Yeah, I one of these days I'm going to write a post about the trees of my life because I'm remembering back in Winnipeg I had a special tree in my backyard
Yeah, that's right. You
then
did.
one in Hitliff Park that I went to visit regularly. So everywhere I go, there's at least one or two trees that speak the loudest to me. So
I
yeah,
love
I
that.
will always
I
have tree
love
friends wherever I go.
that. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Um, so this is going to be a super awkward segue, but just thinking about your relationship with trees. We were talking earlier about sort of exploring the concept of parasocial relationships, which both you and I have sort of spoken about before in various different contexts. And
Do you want
yeah,
to try to
like,
define that before we go
oh,
there?
sure.
Let's try to define parasocial for people who are
Hmm.
maybe new to that language.
Yeah, so parasocial relationship is really is well, I'll use a recent example. Heated rivalry. The fandom that has erupted around heated
Yeah.
rivalry. What
Yeah.
is happening to a lot of people is they are developing a parasocial relationship with some of the actors of that movie.
Yeah.
They feel very connected to them. They feel very much like these people are, yeah, they're feeling like it's evoking a sense of connection and community with some people who are actual strangers to them. So it's a
Yeah.
one-sided relationship where one person is feeling the connection and the other person may or may not have any idea that that is happening. But
Probably
they
doesn't even
don't
know the other
necessarily.
person exists.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's a phenomenon that I think has really kind of erupted since the onset of social media, right? Where all of a sudden we have these tiny snippets of connection to people that we never would have had connection to before.
Yeah.
And, like occasionally actors, athletes, gurus, whomever
Writers
will,
of books.
writers
Yeah.
of books in your
Yeah.
case, will come across something that you've said about them
Yeah.
and may like or comment on your thing. And all of a sudden, that connection suddenly feels reciprocal, even though
Yeah.
it's not really. It's, you know, as you well know, you
Yeah.
liking somebody appreciating your quote on holding space doesn't mean that you're their best friend right away.
Doesn't mean they know me. No, exactly. And
Yeah.
I only have a very, very, very tiny amount of experience with this. Some people have far more than I do, but I can speak a little bit from an insider's point of view of what it's like to have people, especially since I've put so much of myself into my
Yeah.
books, have people think they know me on a
Mm-hmm.
certain level that they haven't actually earned the level of trust in a
Right.
relationship with me to know as much as they think they know. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of projection that goes into parasocial relationships because you are projecting your needs onto them or your opinions about them, about
Yeah.
who they are. So yeah, so it is very much a one-sided thing. And what has also happened as this has arisen is that there have been folks who have taken advantage of parasocial relationships and found ways to monetize them through cults and other, you know, coercive control type things. I think of like influencers who are, utilizing that parasocial relationship in order to shill their supplements or programs or whatever. And to some extent, we do that too, right? Like here we are talking like maybe we know you and also telling you about our programs. So, yeah, so there is an element of parasociality in
There's a
everything we
gray
do
line there
online.
somewhere for
It is,
sure.
yeah.
Very, very much. And I find myself sort of walking that line sometimes of trying to be in healthy relationships while still having boundaries,
Yeah.
but also giving people a bit of myself because I'm a public figure to some degree and trying to walk it in a healthy way because I think what's really dangerous is that line can easily tip over into narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
And we've created this, and I said this not long ago, that we've created these kind of petri dishes of narcissism where we're
Yep.
breeding narcissism in our culture, and the
It's so
influencer
true.
culture is one of those petri dishes where we're creating the conditions for narcissism to grow.
Yeah,
And when someone is worshipped in a parasocial relationship, that's the breeding grounds for narcissism to start growing.
definitely. And I was observing that, yeah, these parasocial relationships seem to explode more prominently often during times of crisis, right? Because it's soothing in some respects to feel that you have that connection with someone with so
Yeah.
low effort, right? Like I can feel connected to you just by watching your video. I can feel connected to you just by you replying to my threads comment
Yeah.
or something like that, right? Like it soothes that need for belonging in a way that is very low effort, I think, for as opposed to trying to achieve that same sense of connection in real life with people
Yeah.
who are actually kind of complex and maybe slightly annoying, and where you're not able to project as much of your own desires onto them
Yeah.
as you can in a virtual setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I often think we in our programs when we talk about community building, we often quote M. Scott Peck, who talks about
Yes,
the stages of community, where it goes from and I'm gonna forget what the stages are, but the fantasy community at the beginning, it feels so beautiful, and this is exactly
right.
what you're looking for in a relationship. It's like the honeymoon phase, and then a pseudo community kind of
Yes,
it's a false sense of community, and then you have to go through a time of disillusionment because somebody hurts your feelings or does something that you don't really like, or they turn out to be a flawed human being, and then you tip over into the like disillusionment chaos, like, oh, now I'm angry, now I'm frustrated, now this isn't what I wanted it to be.
yeah,
And you have to go through that loss of expectation, loss of hope, a loss of like, it happens to all of us when we're
all of
entering
us all
into
the
relationships
time.
and community and any kind. You have to go through this kind of like journey to get to a place of genuine community. Now I can be in community with you, knowing that you're a flawed human being and I'm a flawed human being, and we can meet each other and see each other's beauty and flaws and still be in genuine relationship and trust. And that's unfortunately that what we see in the parasocial relationships is people go through that, like, oh, this is so beautiful, this is this perfect person is perfect, this celebrity, this influencer, this cult leader, this writer,
Yeah,
whatever, is just projecting something in the world that just makes me feel hopeful about the world. And maybe, and as I've said before, sometimes it's a projection of you want that person to be your benevolent parent that you never had, you didn't get that
sure.
love from your parent, or you want them to be an ultimate ideal version of who you could be, so it's an
Mm-hmm.
aspirational, you hold them up in a certain way, and then every single time that person's going to let you down. It just,
Absolutely.
like,
It
we
just
are none of us
is.
perfect human beings. We
Damn it.
build these perfect images, and trust me, I've let a lot of people down in my life, so I know what it's like
Me
to get
too.
to that point where people are disillusioned with me, and all of a sudden, and then you go through this internal conflict of like, I can't necessarily admit that I'm screwed up, so I have to project my blame onto them and shame,
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, you're not the person I thought you were, so I have to look for another person to hold up as the ideal, and now I'm going to tear you down because you
yeah,
you failed to meet my expectation, instead of either a pulling away from the parasocial relationship, realizing, oh, I have to do this with actual people, enter into
yeah,
real relationships. We go back through the cycle again and again and
yeah,
again, and we never get past that moment of disillusionment with somebody, and that's like, yeah, we see that playing out again and again and again online, and right now we're going through this kind of wave of people in the kind of spirituality wellness community being torn
yes,
down too, because they've built themselves into, and the thing is, if you're on the receiving end of the worship of people that are holding you up as that ideal, it can feel really tempting to just bask in it and believe it
mm-hmm.
and convince yourself it's true, and that's when the tipping into the narcissism go falls into. And then those people either become like high on their own supply and believing that they are better than other people, and so then
Yeah,
they start projecting that like I have superiority, I'm your spiritual guru, I'm your whatever, and they fall into the narcissistic path, the cult leader path, or something like that. And meanwhile, it's like all of us are a little bit screwed up because we're not
Totally.
actually building genuine relationships. We're doing this more and more on a parasocial level instead of, and it comes out of an individualistic culture. Like
Yeah.
we don't
Yes.
know how to be in real community spaces because we're living so much of our lives online and in
Yeah.
these artificial environments where we don't genuinely enter into each other's lives.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And it's, yeah, again, you're scratching that itch of belonging
Yeah.
without enduring the maturing process, right? And maturing is not easy. Like there's lots of growing pains in that process.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I was saying earlier that, social media kind of dropped right at the height of all of this individualistic culture. And so we had no mechanism to be able to, you know, truly differentiate real from fake to some extent,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
it all felt very real. And it can feel very real. And we have built really good online communities, you and I. But they have taken effort and they don't
Yeah.
look the way they look in a short online video or in comments on a blog post.
Yeah.
Like they're much, much different than what you see in a nanosecond online.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they
And
fall
it's,
victim to the same things. And you and
yeah,
I have had experiences where we really recognized the limitation of text-based communication, for
yeah,
example. And when we're
big
not
time.
meeting with each other face to face, when we're not reading each other's facial expressions, doing the kind of co-regulation stuff, and that's when, and we last time we talked about accountability and
Yeah.
how there ends up being this performative accountability. So we think we're doing community online by holding each other accountable. And meanwhile, it's like, I need you to prove that you're doing this well. And so I'm going to hold you accountable in this public way, or I'm going to tear you down, and it's text based. So I'm not taking that risk to be in a face-to-face conversation with you. I'm just
That's
going
right.
to call you out. Or and yeah, there are so many ways that, and it's not like you say, we have some of the most beautiful conversations on Zoom of
Oh,
any
100%.
space I can imagine. And it's still a limited version of real community. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to be clear on that. It's like, if this is the only version of community that you have, it is still not taking you all the way to a
Yeah.
healthy communal experience. And I
Yeah.
want people to understand that and learn that in their lives and do the hard work to get there, because that's one of the biggest things that we are missing in our lives, because our culture has become so individualistic,
Yeah.
so celebrity focused, so putting like people in a pedestal, so all of the things. And I just recently did a video on the hard P's of patriarchy, and some
Yes.
of that
Yeah.
is the like performativeness and the perfectionism
Yeah.
and the
Policing.
punishment that's involved. And all of these things are so present on social media spaces. Like it can
Mm-hmm.
be so ugly sometimes to be
Yeah.
trying to live a true authentic life in those spaces.
Totally. Totally. And I think too, it's sort of another consequence of our capitalist culture, right? Like it's very much focused on, the nuclear family. You can only have one thing, right? So, and even with community, it's like you can only have the one community, and that's bullshit. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should have multiple communities of support.
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
you can't rely on any one person to fulfill all your needs. You can't rely on any one community to fill all of your needs.
yeah,
You're going to need multiples of them because you grow as a person too. And sometimes you're going to grow out of the community that you're a part of. It
yeah,
happens all of the time, and it's kind of okay. Um,
yeah,
but then you need another community that can support you. And if you don't already have one built in and you have to find another one, it's really hard. It can be really
yeah,
hard to start that. As important as it is, I know it's
yeah.
intimidating and it's scary. And yeah, we haven't taught ourselves the tools to do that all the time.
No, we don't have a lot of good cultural models for it,
No.
unfortunately. And that this is one of our, I think this is something we really have to work on turning around, because we've
Yeah.
built these systems that are hierarchical in nature, are not, we don't know how to flatten them into genuine community. And you and I
Yeah.
try to do that with hosting everything in Circle, for example,
Yeah.
trying to flatten some of that hierarchy. But we're still letting those kinds of beliefs and cultural norms infiltrate all of our systems and all of our spaces. And
Yeah.
I, yeah, I think that we have to collectively, all of us who are conscious of this, have to be collectively conscious of how do we disrupt that. And this is, you and I have been talking about this. I've just come back onto social media in the last few
Yeah.
months after taking a full year off. And it was one of the best things I could have done, because it's allowed me to come back a little bit differently and
Mhm.
try to be more intentional about how I am in those spaces, and also trying to be really intentional about what I'm observing about those spaces, and
Mhm.
how the toxicity gets into the spaces, and how to change how I show up so that it invites like I've always been pretty intentional about how I show up on
Yes.
social media, but it, even if you're a mature intentional person on those spaces, the spaces, it's like a virus, gets into your
Yeah.
system, and get, makes you as sick as the whole culture is. And so yeah, it's so complicated. And i
It
and i think,
is.
like, right now, I think there's a lot happening in terms of, like, trying to take people down a little bit in terms of the spiritual leaders and stuff. And not that that's
Yeah.
wrong, but also have, like, look at the whole system. Don't just look to those people that are failing. Like, how has a system been set up to allow us to put those people on the pedestal? Why did that happen? And
Yeah.
how are we collectively responsible for shifting the system so that we're in more real relationships
Yeah.
that allow us to grow and mature in the context of a good, healthy relationship?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to live out my shit online. I want to live it out with you and my
Yeah.
family and my closest friends and my community. I want to
Yeah.
make my mistakes here and not
Yeah.
on public spaces. And so, like, I know that you're going to help me get past the mistakes and hold me accountable for them. And
Yeah.
so we need more of that, those kinds of, like, really, well threaded kind of relationships where we're actually seeing each other in real
Yeah.
ways, and not just seeing a public version of who we are and how
Absolutely.
we show up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we have consistently tried to do with the center is to provide a sample of what a good community can be like. Like we've always joked that we're trying to be anti-culty, be the anti-cult. Like
Yeah.
it would be very easy for us to just be like, oh, let's make Heather the guru and everyone follow her and do what she does. But we very intentionally
You'd have
have
to pick
not
a
done
less
that.
flawed person than me if you wanted to do that.
I don't know, Heather, you're pretty perfect. No, I'm kidding. Um, okay, me then.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
let's do that.
ew, 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 ew. Um, but I think we try to, we have these 8-month, year-long communities that get together and we meet in a particular way. And the end goal is not necessarily that these groups continue forever, but that you get a sample of what it could be like to be in a good community, in an intentional community, in an authentic community, in a community that's able to move through those phases of, pseudo community, and then the disillusionment, and then genuine connection. And it happens in all of our courses to some extent or another.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really delight in, is that people often leave our courses and are like, huh, I wonder if I could try this. I wonder if I could do this in this
Yeah.
space. And then they try it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but
Yeah.
it gives them enough of an incentive of a proof of concept to give
Yeah.
it a whirl.
And this is one of the things, and maybe this is for a future video, actually, because I think we're
Yeah.
close to the end on this one.
Yeah,
But this is
probably.
one of the reasons that we've intentionally been shifted our language over the years around not just talking about safe spaces, but talking
Yeah,
about brave spaces, because
100%.
we want people who are going to be courageous enough to enter into the chaos of the relationship so that they can get to a deeper place in relationship. Because if we're only creating safe spaces, then we're staying in the pseudo, you and I pronounce that differently, pseudo or
Yeah,
pseudo community.
pseudo.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But
I'm
yeah,
sure we'll get corrected somewhere online.
yeah.
That's what they do, right?
If you want to enter into something that is more real, it does
Yeah.
require bravery. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, if you spend too much time on social media where we've had to watch cancel culture happen, it's really, really hard to be brave
Yeah.
in spaces where you think you might get called out for using
Yeah.
the wrong language or saying something the wrong way or something like that. So
Yeah.
that's the other fine line we walk. But let's put a pause on that conversation and maybe come
Yeah.
back to it next week or something.
Yeah, we're gonna have to remember this now because we talk about
We never plan
we
our.
talk about so much stuff and we never
I
plan
know.
these calls.
We never.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so if you've watched this and you want us to keep talking about Brave Space, maybe just like comment and then we'll see
Yeah,
it
we
and
would
we'll be
love
like,
to
oh
hear what
right.
people. We've never really asked what people want us to talk about, but if you have
Yeah,
ideas
maybe
about
we
something you
should.
want to know more about.
Yeah, and we're happy to facilitate those conversations. Um, yeah, so we've had two calls now for our like Become a Grounded Guide series, and they've been spectacular. Such a good group
Yeah,
of people.
really lovely.
Um, if you would like, you are still welcome to join us for module 2 if you want. This is not the kind of course where you have to sign up in consecutive modules.
Yeah,
You
and
can
you could
pop in
sign
for
up
module
for
2.
module 2, and then the next time we do a round, you
Hmm.
could join module 1 if you missed it. But each of them
Absolutely.
is kind of a standalone, or the first 5 modules, anyways. Each
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
topics is a standalone, so you can jump in at some point and join us for a module, and then next year we'll have the same
Yeah.
round. You can
Absolutely.
catch the ones that you
And
missed.
if you do still want to join Module 1, you can. We have recorded the calls and you can watch the 2 that we've already done. And you can come in now because we're not even halfway through yet. So
Yeah, we're
you
fairly
are
loose on
welcome.
when we let people in too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you would like to still join us, you are very welcome to do it. Don't feel like you've missed your opportunity.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you be a part of it. And we generally leave access open to the material for ever. So you can always go back to the material.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One day maybe we'll start closing things down. I
Closing.
don't know.
Yeah. If we feel the necessity. Sometimes we do
That's
it
right.
because we change platforms or something.
Right.
Ultimately, a
Exactly.
platform closes, so we have to change how
Yeah,
we offer courses. Yeah.
for sure. Anyway, we've yacked your ear off enough. Thanks for joining us for another coffee break, for being part of our community, however parasocial it might be. Um,
Yeah.
it's a start. It's a good start, but don't let it be
Yeah.
the end. I think that's our point. It's a good start, but don't
Exactly.
let it be the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's only a beginning.
That's right. There's your too long didn't read. Until next time.